Did you ever think your favorite games could vanish because of a credit card company? It happened. And now, a brand new executive order from President Trump literally might have just saved Steam and gamers across the US. And not only that, it might have just thrown a giant wrench in Visa and MasterCard's censorship engine. So today I am breaking down how we got here, what this new order actually does, and why, yes, even if you don't play those anime games on Steam, you should be celebrating. And if you stick around to the end, I will share 3 potential futures that this might lead to. So let's dive in. If you're new here, you might be wondering, why am I talking about Steam and credit cards? So first, let's quickly recap what in the world happened with this scandal that happened earlier this summer and completely rocked the gaming community. In July, an activist group from Australia called Collective Shout basically started putting pressure on these different companies like Steam and Visa and MasterCard to remove certain adult-oriented games from their platform. Games that they deemed were offensive. Basically what this led to is Visa and MasterCard pressured Steam into delisting these games in the threat that they would completely remove or debank them. And basically this resulted in the delisting of thousands of games from Steam. Basically not safe for work games. They claimed they had no choice, but in reality basically they were threatened by Visa and MasterCard that if they didn't delist the games, they would literally stop them and not allow them to process payments on their platforms. And if you didn't know, if you can't process payments, you can't make money. Literally could have shut the entire company down. And I want to be extremely clear. These games were not illegal. Steam follows the law. All these games did was basically make some group of Karens a little squeamish. And Valve basically came out and said that they were very worried about losing their ability to process payments. I mean, literally their entire company relies on it. So Steam delisted the games, and itch.io, the other company that was being pressured, basically delisted every NSFW game that they had. They later brought back a couple that were free, but that's another story. But all of this happened because Visa and MasterCard wanted to start playing moral police and basically strong-arming them into doing what they want. As a gamer, this pissed me off. I may not even play those anime games, but I definitely don't want some corporate boardroom controlling what I can and can't play. And that is what we call financial censorship. And this is exactly what is happening. So my question is, what gave banks and payment processors the right to determine what we can and can't buy? And who gave them the nerve to think they could censor games? Well, it's a little something called reputational risk. MasterCard's rule 5.12.7. This rule basically lets the company block any transaction they deem could potentially lead to hurting their reputation. And here's the thing, they don't even have to prove that the game is illegal, only that it might offend someone or just hurt their little brand. And that is the exact clause that they used to pressure Valve and itch.io. And this isn't just Steam, this is just the beginning of it happening to the gaming community. The same exact strategy has been used to debank cryptocurrencies, legal gun stores, and it's been extremely big in a lot of anime merchandise. So if you bought ammo or a figure, regulators suggested that banks flag all of your transactions. Payment networks are essentially the roads of the entire digital economy. When they control the roads, they can stop anyone that they disagree with or just don't like from traveling on those roads. And that is not law, that is corporate activism. And it all is involving your money. So I don't know about you, but me personally, I don't like government overreach. But even more than that, I do not like companies trying to act as unselected regulators. And Steam, because of all this, even added a clause that said it could have the potential to delist any game that might upset the payment processors. And basically that gives banks veto power over your access library. Completely unacceptable. And now enters President Trump into the mix. On August 7th, 2025, he signed an executive order aimed at stopping what this order calls politicized or unlawful debanking. And yes, this tactic addresses the very same thing that targeted gamers. This order cites the unacceptable practice of restricting law law-abiding individuals and businesses access to financial services based on political or religious beliefs or lawful business activities. So let me translate this legal jargon into gamer speak. Banks and payment processors can't use vague reputational risk as a reason to cut off your services. And this order directs every federal banking regulator, the Fed, FDIC, OCC, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and even more, basically forcing them to remove the use of reputational risk or equivalent concepts from all of their guidance documents. So now basically their only option left is to make decisions basically on individualized, objective, or risk-based analysis, meaning that banks must actually prove that there's a financial risk, not just a PR risk. And that's not all, it gets even better. The order tells the Small Business Administration to inform banks participating in SBA guaranteed loans that they must identify all of the clients who were denied services because of politicized or unlawful debanking. Then they have to notify them, and then they have to reinstate them. Regulators are instructed to review all of the financial institutions and take remedial action, including fines, if they've engaged in politicized or unlawful debanking. And the Treasury Department is now tasked with developing a comprehensive strategy to combat this process across the entire federal government. So that's a lot, but I won't lie to you guys, this is absolutely huge. This is the very first legal decision that we have seen that directly affects the Steam censorship. And President Trump isn't just tweeting about unfair banks. He's ordering regulators to literally stop them in their tracks. And I'm here for it. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, Walker, but what does banking law have to do with my games? And here's what I gotta tell you. This order strikes at the very heart of the mechanism banks use to censor Steam. By removing reputational risk from all of their regulatory guidance, banks no longer have the ability or excuse to threaten platforms over subjective content. Remember, Valve basically said it was strong-armed, threatened, forced, whatever you want to call it, to remove these games by the payment processors, all because they threatened to shut down Steam's ability to process payments. And all of those threats were based on some vague reputational risk clause that this order completely eliminates. So while the executive order can't directly impact Visa and MasterCard because they're not federally chartered banks, it tells the banks that are processing their payments that they can't take these actions without objective risk. And now if banks know that they could be fined for operating on reputational risk alone, they are way less likely to cave to pressure. So in other words, this law could literally remove the Rule 512.7 and similar policies. It forces banks to ask, is this transaction actually illegal or financially risky? Rather than, will this offend someone on Twitter? That means that yes, a niche visual novel has the same right to exist as the next big AAA shooter, as long as it's legal. So here's where my bias comes in. I believe in fair markets, but I also believe in free access. When I see Visa and MasterCard acting like big moral authorities, I hear the same exact song and dance that we've heard from big tech censorship, except now it's about the money. That's not capitalism, that's crony activism. I mean, it's kind of funny, I don't even play the games that got absolutely nuked. They're not for me, but I will fight for your right to play them, because if we let payment giants kill off games that they don't like today, well, tomorrow it's going to be something else. Maybe your favorite shooter has a controversial theme. Maybe your favorite RPG game starts drawing the wrong attention. I mean, without intervention, who knows how far it would actually go. So when I see President Trump signing an executive order telling federal regulators to stop banks from acting like moral police, I love it. This is the same guy that's been complaining that banks discriminate against certain political views. So whether you love or hate him, he's taken some concrete steps here that is trying to protect gamers, crypto entrepreneurs, gun shop owners, and yes, even my anime gooners. I'd say that's pretty solid. So before anyone starts screaming, what about a free market? Just remember that these banks and payment processors all operate under federal charters and government protections. So when they start using their power to discriminate against lawful businesses, that is not a free market, it's an oligarchy. The executive order simply holds them to the same objective standards that you and I live under. Now, we gotta be real here, and An executive order isn't just a magic wand. It can direct the federal regulators, but it doesn't rewrite the law or directly control private companies like Visa and MasterCard. So this fight is not over yet. The critics are saying that the order doesn't have teeth because it can't regulate the card networks themselves. And they're right. And that is why we kind of need Congress to act. The Fair Access to Banking Act, or the FIRM Act for short, is currently moving through both chambers. And what this would do would legally prohibit banks from using reputational risk as a supervisory factor. Several states like Florida and Tennessee already passed laws prohibiting discrimination in banking based on political or religious affiliation. The executive order also instructs regulators to review past cases of politicized debanking and for them to take remedial action. What that means is if a bank cut off a game developer over a moral panic, they could be fined or forced to reinstate the account. And the Department of Treasury is tasked with developing a comprehensive strategy to combat this across the entire government. But until all of this is actually finalized and Congress solidifies the protections, the next administration could easily just come in and reverse all of this progress. So while I am celebrating this order, I'm also calling on our lawmakers to finalize this FIRM Act. I mean, this is the time for gamers, gun owners, crypto enthusiasts, anyone who values some freedom to just speak up. We can't let these companies dictate what we can and can't buy. So to all of my fellow gamers out there, we might just be witnessing some history in the making. A president stepping in to protect our hobby from corporate overreach. Honestly, that is something that I never thought I would say. So whether you like Trump or not, his executive order targeting politicized debanking is a pretty big win for free speech and free markets. Visa and MasterCard were never elected to make decisions for us, yet they were out here deciding what art is acceptable. That ain't happening anymore. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button. It tells the algorithm to push this message out. Subscribe for more deep dives into the future of gaming and all of the outside sources that are shaping it. And drop a comment. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you think this executive order goes far enough? And which of the three futures do you guys see coming? Let's get this conversation going. Peace.